It. So I took a look at my battery. We still have a little more than halfway. So we're going to see how far we could get through this. So let us continue with part 1, or part 21, I'm sorry, of our lovely book, The Master Key System by Charles F. Haanel. So the real secret of power is consciousness of power. Remember, you have to be aware that that power is even in existence. You know, like, you have to be aware that your thoughts in general have their own power. Because if you're not conscious of your own power, how are you going to be able to use it? You know, just like with fitness, if you're not conscious about how proteins work, or fats work, or even carbs work, you know, vitamins and minerals and all that stuff, how are you going to be able to properly use it within your lives? You know, same thing with here. We need to become, you know, more aware of our own abilities. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're trying to do. You know, all of us. Because all of us are here to grow. You know, not just me, but you too. You know, like, think of how much we could do together if we just knew more about ourselves. You know, and we knew that whatever we put this lovely thing to, it's not impossible for us to accomplish. The universal mind is unconditional. Therefore, the more conscious we become of our unity with this mind, the less conscious we shall become of conditions and limitations. And as we become emancipated or freed from conditions, we come into a realization of the unconditional. We have become free. Wow, and that's I really like that paragraph, and I really want to talk a little bit more about what that means. Remember how he was just saying, we need to learn how to raise our thoughts higher. You know, have bigger thoughts. Think bigger. You know, that's the only way we're even going to be able to grow in mind. Is if we feed our brain cells higher thoughts. You know, it's like going from, you know, thinking of, I don't know, doing handstands on the floor. It's like that thought is feeding your brain cells, you know, protein with 10 grams, as compared to you doing handstands on bars that are 10 feet off the floor. You know, that thought would be like feeding your brain cells 20 grams of protein. You know, it's a bigger thought. You know, it's something that's more challenging, something that's more scary. It's more dangerous. You know, 20 feet off the floor is pretty high. That's like 2 basketball courts. Like, that's pretty high up there. You know, and like thinking these thoughts, the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you first think about doing it. You know, it has to first come into your consciousness. And, you know, we become freed from conditions when we're free from, you know, the how do you say, the average thought of the atmosphere, I guess you could say. Remember, thoughts are things. You know, and every time you think, you're sending your thoughts outside of you. You know, we're surrounded by our own thoughts, you know, in our aura, our atmosphere. You know, it's our thinking, and it creates our energies. And I know for a fact you've been with somebody, you know, you think something, or they think something, and you say something, or they say something, and you're like, hey, I was thinking that same thing. You know, it's because you two are in each other's mental atmosphere. You know, you're sharing each other's thoughts. You know, your thoughts are real things. They're elements in the air. You know, just learning to recognize them as that. You know, and it's going to take time, and how it's like these thoughts, we even learned it in you. You know, how not only are all these vibrations with radio stations and things happening, floating around in the ether, but the thoughts, like everyone's thoughts are floating around in the ether as well. You know, for example, I know you've thought of somebody, and they ended up calling you the next day, or a little bit after. Or you ended up calling somebody and said, I was just thinking about you. You know, you guys connected with each other, you know, mentally. You know, you sent your thought vibrations of that person or that individual across, and it travels across the ether by the law of vibration, which we have learned, and then that individual receives it through their own individual spark of consciousness. Whether they're really aware that you're thinking about them or not, you know, that still enters into their awareness. It's very, very, very interesting. You know, once we get to the point where we're able to continuously think bigger thoughts, and to keep our minds from coming down to a lower level of thinking, we're always going to be able to think up here. We won't be affected what's going on down here. Okay, and since we're going to be up here thinking higher thoughts, we're always going to be doing higher and better things. You know, because the body goes where the mind goes. You know, and the mind expresses what, you know, the spirit is thinking. You know. As soon as we become conscious of an inexhaustible power in the world within, we begin to draw on this power and apply and develop the greater possibilities which this discernment has realized, because whatever we become conscious of is invariably manifested in the objective world, is brought forth into tangible expressions. This is because the infinite mind, which is the source from which all things proceed, is one and indivisible, and each individual is a channel whereby the eternal energy is being manifested. Our ability to think is our ability to act upon this universal substance, and what we think is what is created or produced in the objective world. Because those thought vibrations, you're releasing it out into the atmosphere, in the ether. By the law of attraction, you're pulling those things back towards you. And not only that, but you also become an embodiment of that, whatever it is you are thinking. Like what on earth, you know? Like, not only do you become what you think about, but you also surround yourself with the things you think about. It's amazing. It's amazing. The result of this discovery is nothing less than marvelous, and means that mind is extraordinary in quality, limitless in quantity, and contains possibilities without number. To become conscious of this power is to become a live wire. It has the same effect as placing an ordinary wire in contact with a wire that is charged. Remember, forming the circuit, connecting with that. You know, we even talked about it in our book, You know, certain thoughts that you receive in the atmosphere, you only receive those things which you are in tune with. You know, if you could find a way to tune yourself to thinking higher thoughts, you're going to be able to pull greater and more grandeur thoughts out of the ether. You know, like they say, you can think the same thoughts of every sage, of every thought which has ever been in existence is still in existence within this universal, you know, mind, within God. You know, and we have to find out how to connect our mind with that specific part of God's mind in order to pull that information out of the atmosphere or out of the ether. The universal is the live wire. It carries power sufficient to meet every situation which may arise in the life of every individual. When the individual mind touches the universal mind, it receives all the power it requires. This is the world within. Remember, the worlds of thoughts, moods, and feelings. All science recognizes the reality of this world, and all power is contingent upon a recognition of this world. The ability to eliminate imperfect conditions depends upon mental actions, and mental action depends upon consciousness of power. Therefore, the more conscious we become of our unity with the source of all power, the greater will be our power to control and master every condition. In a way, he's saying, because once we become conscious of it, and we form that circuit, you know, with this thing, it's like pouring itself through us. You know, like we become the infinite. You know, once we form our unity with life, you know, we're thinking on higher thoughts. You know, when we're creating. God created us to create just as He creates. You know, you're created in His image. He made you to make. You know, He created you for you to create. You know, and He continuously creates through you. You know, it's consciousness of power. Learn how to use your mind. Learn how to apply your thoughts. Learn how to direct them. Large ideas have a tendency to eliminate all similar or smaller ideas, so that it is well to hold ideas large enough to counteract and destroy all small or undesirable tendencies. This will remove innumerable petty and annoying obstacles from your path. You also become conscious of a larger world of thought, thereby increasing your mental capacity as well as placing yourself in position to accomplish something of value. This is one of the secrets of success, one of the methods of organizing victory, one of the accomplishments of the master mind. He thinks big thoughts. The creative energies of mind find no more difficulty in handling large situations than small ones. Mind is just as much present in the infinitely large as in the infinitely small. When we realize these facts concerning mind, we understand how we may bring ourselves any condition by creating the corresponding conditions in our consciousness. We must be before we can have, saying we must build the mental house. Remember in the former chapters how we were talking about our mental home. Our mental home, which is infinitely more important than any physical home that we have, because every thoughts we think, we're continuously building our mental home. And we need to think greater, bigger thoughts so we could build stronger walls for our home, our own personal temple within the mind. We need to learn to keep things out of our mind as well that don't help us and don't serve us. This is what we need to strive for, because I know it's definitely what I'm striving for, and I know I still have a lot of work to do. Even nowadays. One thing I've learned that even the most successful people nowadays took them years to get there. Years and years and years on end to get there. I just need to keep being patient with myself. We need to keep being patient with ourselves as we continuously grow along the way. When it comes to growing to the person we want to be, it's going to take time. You need to be patient with that. That's one thing I'm learning. Having patience with yourself. Because one thing I learned about humans, us as humans, we take our time to grow. We take our time to grow. As in anything else, they don't take their time to grow. Like a plant, for example. Plant doesn't really have as much of a choice as we have in this life, which is why a lot of people, we're just simply not choosing to live out the best that we can. But a plant, any animals, they grow as much as they can. Humans are actually the only species found on this planet that doesn't work to their fullest capacities. And we are also the only ones on this planet that were created in the image and likeness of the universe. Here we are. When we realize these facts concerning mind, we understand how we may bring ourselves any condition by creating the corresponding conditions in our own consciousness. Within our consciousness, because everything which is held for any length of time is in the consciousness, eventually becomes impressed upon the subconscious, and thus becomes a pattern which the creative energies will wave into the life and environment of the individual. Remember how we learned about that too, holding the thoughts specifically, concentration, how to build concentration, and holding the thought, concentrating your thought on a specific purpose for a certain length of time until it becomes a subconscious entity. A lot of willpower is also being used because it uses the power of our will in order to keep our thoughts focused on a specific thing. Because remember, the mind wants to continuously do a lot of things. We need to train it. We need to train our own mind to keep it steadied on one specific thing. And you could do that by working on your own personal concentration and by keeping your thoughts, focusing in meditation, trying to still and keeping your thoughts held on one specific thing. And if you find your mind roaming somewhere else, bring it back to its original purpose and keep holding it there, because it becomes a subconscious entity, and only until it becomes subconscious will it really becomes who you are. Because thinking creates actions, and actions create being. In this way, conditions are produced, and we find that our lives are simply the reflection of our predominant thoughts, our mental attitude. We see then that the science of correct thinking is the one science, that it includes all other sciences. From this science we learn that every thought creates an impression on the brain, that these impressions create mental tendencies, and these tendencies create character, ability, and purpose, and that the combined actions of character, ability, and purpose determines the experiences in which we shall meet in life. These experiences come to us through the law of attraction. Through the action of this law we meet in the world without, the experiences which correspond to our world within. The predominant thought or the mental attitude is the magnet, and the law is that, quote, like attracts like, end quote. Consequently, the mental attitude will invariably attract such conditions as correspond to its nature. And how does it do this? By becoming that. By expressing whatever it is that you're thinking. By taking actions on whatever thoughts you are continuously thinking. That is the only way, once you take that action, to invariably, create that condition in your life. Because when we think about it, we can attract it to us. Yes, we attract things and opportunities and things in our life by thinking about it and thinking about it with interest. But it only becomes a real tangible fact in your life until you take action on it. This is, however, no easy matter to change the mental attitude, but by persistent effort it may be accomplished. The mental attitude is patterned after the mental pictures which have been photographed on the brain. If you do not like the pictures, destroy the negatives and create new pictures. This is the art of visualization. As soon as you have done this, you will begin to attract new things, and the new things will correspond to your new pictures. To do this, impress on the mind a perfect picture of the desire which you wish to have objectified, and continue to hold the picture in mind until results are obtained. Remember, holding it until it becomes a subconscious. And once it becomes subconscious, it becomes who you are. And then once it becomes who you are, and you're being that thing, the environment will start to reflect that, because that's who you are. It's just simply who you are. If the desire is one which requires determination, ability, talent, courage, power, or any other spiritual power, these are necessary essentials for your picture. Build them in. They are the vital part of the picture. They are the feeling which combines with thought and creates the individual, irresistible magnetic power which draws the things you require to you. Remember, when you're thinking, you think determination, you're thinking ability, you're thinking yourself with talent, you're thinking yourself courageous. Emotionalize it. Emotionalize that thought. Really connect with that. I am that. I am courageous. I am. Really connect with that affirmation that you're saying of yourself, and believe in it. Believe in what you're saying about yourself. Believe in what you believe about yourself. They give your picture life, and life means growth. And as soon as it begins to grow, the result is practically assured. Do not hesitate to aspire to the highest possible attainments in anything you may undertake, for the mind forces are ever ready to lend themselves to a purposeful will in an effort to crystallize its highest aspirations into acts, accomplishments, and events. You could have, be, or do anything you want to do, be, or have. It all just starts in our mind. An illustration of how these mind forces operate is suggested by the method in which all our habits are formed. We do a thing, then we do it again, and again, and again, until it becomes easy and perhaps almost automatic. And then the same rule applies in breaking any and all bad habits. We stop doing a thing, and then avoid it again and again until we are entirely free from it. And if we do fail now and then, we should by no means lose hope, for the law is absolute and invincible, and gives us credit for every effort and every success, even though our efforts and successes are perhaps intermittent. And that is why I was saying in the beginning of this video, mind and spirit cannot be the same thing, because the spirit of who we are is something that is never changing. We simply are. But we can change our mind. We can change what we do by day-to-day basis. I could stop reading these books, and once I do, it would change me. But I don't want to stop reading these books because I absolutely love it, and it fulfills me in a way. It's one of those things that just does it for me. Same thing with fitness. If I stopped going to the gym, not only will I mentally change, because I wouldn't be, so mentally strong. I wouldn't be so mentally sharp, because the body and the mind work together. The body cannot go to its fullest unless we're conscious within our mind of actually how it works, and our mind can't work to its fullest until we're working out, exercising, eating right, doing the things that are necessary for our mind to even function properly within this body of ours. Going back to how we were saying earlier, this I am of who we are. Look, we could stop doing something, refusing to do bad habits. We have the choice. If you have a bad habit that you want to stop, you have the choice to say, I don't have to do this today. I don't have to do this today. I am in control. I am in charge. I am the one who makes the decisions, regardless of how I feel right now, regardless of how what I'm thinking right now. I have a choice, because I know that this, regardless if, mind and body, the spiritual part of our world and the external part of our world, regardless if, they're both two aspects of one whole, they also have, their seemingly differences. Like when it becomes a part of who you are, you don't have to think about doing something anymore. Yeah, thought is where it starts, but after it becomes a habit, it's a body. The body is the subconscious, and once it becomes a part of the body, which is like a part of the manifested material realm, then oh man, because you can think something and not act on it. It's those are the differences between the two. You don't have to act on that thought, but yet actions first come from thoughts. That's like a big conundrum right there. Okay, where were we? Okay, we stopped, and then, so we stopped doing a thing, and then avoid it again and again until we are entirely free from it. And if we do fail now and then, we should by no means lose hope, for the law is absolute and invincible, and gives us credit for every effort and every success, even though our efforts and successes are perhaps intermittent. There is no limit to what this law can bring for you. Dare to believe in your own idea. Remember that nature is plastic to the ideal. Remember, Earl Nightingale, that success is the progressive realization towards a worthy ideal. Dare to believe in your own idea, because whatever it is that you want to do, just go ahead and start doing it. The universe will be there to catch you. The universe will be there. God will be there to help you along the way. But remember, you have to do your part first. You have to do your part first, and then God will do the rest. The universe will do the rest. Remember that nature is plastic to the ideal. The nature molds itself. Our environment molds itself to the mind. Think of the ideal as an already accomplished fact. There's psychology behind that, by believing in it here and now. Because not only here and now being the only time there is, but we have to believe in it now. I am that now. This is who I am. This is who I know I am. This is who I'm going to be. And I'm going to start being it, because I know this is who I am. Only until it gets to that point where you really start saying that, this is who I am. This is who... No. This is the character I want to create. That's what it is. Because there is only one Spirit. And we learn that we are God. Living as a human. And from who we are is something that simply is unconditional. It has no conditions. From a place of stillness. Nothing. Once we start to move that nothingness into something, with mind, once we start moving this unconditioned consciousness and thinking, and we start conditioning this consciousness with certain thoughts, emotions, and feelings, our consciousness becomes conditioned, and it becomes our habitual way of thinking, our habitual way of feeling, and we have the ability to change the way we think, to change the way we feel, to change how we look at things, because we come from a place on such a higher plane than these thoughts and moods and feelings. Wow. Think of the ideal as an already accomplished fact. The real battle of life is one of ideas. It is in the imagination. Quote by Neville Goddard, the real drama of life is not physical, it is imaginal. And then another one, that the man who is aware of what he is imagining knows what he is creating. All that is by Neville Goddard. And there's even one more I have. It says, nothing appears or continues in being by a power of its own. Events happen because comparatively and stable imaginal activities, mental processes, certain thinkings brought them into being. And they continue in being only as long as they receive such support. Neville Goddard, what we're learning right now with thinking, when you're thinking certain ways, you're bringing those things into being. But once you start thinking a different way, then you start bringing other things into being. Wow. It is being fought out by the few against the many. On the one side, it is the constructive, creative thought. On the other side, the destructive and negative thought. Remember, it is this destructive and negative thought atmosphere which we need to bring ourselves above, because thoughts are things, and they're traveling around in the atmosphere, and you could feel when somebody's observing you. You can feel when somebody's listening to you. You can feel when somebody's sending their thoughts towards you, because they have their consciousness, they have their awareness focused on you. Remember, it is through you which things come into being. It is through you that your dreams are going to come into life. It is God working through you which is manifesting everything inside of your life. Become an open channel. The creative thought is dominated by an ideal, an idea, a belief that somebody has about something. The passive thought is dominated by appearances. On both sides are men of science, men of letters, and men of affairs. On the creative side are men who spend their times in laboratories or over microscopes and telescopes, side by side with the men who dominate the commercial, political, and scientific world. On the negative side are men who spend their time investigating law and precedent, men who mistake theology for religion, statesmen who mistake might for right, and all the millions who seem to prefer precedent to progress, who are eternally looking backwards instead of forward, who see only the world without, but know nothing of the world within. In the last analysis, there are but these two classes. All men will have to take their place on one side or the other. They will have to go forward or go back. There is no standing still in a world where there is all motion. It is this attempt to stand still that gives sanction and force to arbitrary and unequal codes of law. So we must always keep moving. Always keep moving forward, because you're never in one place. You're either going to move forward that day or you're going to move back that day. There's never a point of being in the middle. You're never at one spot at a time, because the only thing that's continuously happening is change. Time is time. It doesn't stop. Regardless if I'm sitting here, I'm so engrossed in thinking about this book, and just reading about it. Life is still happening around me. Even if I'm not conscious of what's happening around me at the moment, it's still happening and it's still there. There is nothing in motion. That's where we were. Okay, there's nothing, or everything is in motion. There is nothing standing still. That we are in a period of transition is evidenced by the unrest which is everywhere apparent. The complaint of humanity is as a roll of heaven's artillery, commencing with low and threatening notes, and increasing until the sound is sent from cloud to cloud, and the lightning splits the air and earth. The sentries who patrol the most advanced outposts of the industrial, political, and religious world are calling anxiously to each other. What of the night? The danger and insecurity of the position they occupy and attempt to hold is becoming more apparent every hour. The dawn of a new era necessarily declares that the existing order of things cannot much longer be. The issue between the old resume and the new, the crux, C-R-U-X, of the social problem is entirely a question of conviction in the minds of the people as to the nature of the universe. When they realize that the transcendent force of spirit or mind of the cosmos that's it right there. Because then I'll also go back to I was listening to another audio. I can't remember his name. It's been a while. But he even says in the beginning, he says, God, spirit, or mind. Whatever you choose to name it, it doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. The force of spirit or mind of the cosmos is within each individual. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if even this, like, what if it's right but at the same time it's not? Just simply because of the terms. You know, there was a man who asked me if I believed in a dichotomy or a trichotomy. You know, and he was a religious man. I met this individual when I was still working at LA Fitness. It's been, it was over 6 months. But he was asking me what I believed in. If I believed in a dichotomy, which is 2, you know, or if I believed in a trichotomy, which is 3. You know, is this universe something that consists of only 2, or is it something that consists of 3, or maybe, you know, even more? You know, how much have we learned right now? But even that, I'm really. The force of spirit or mind of the cosmos is within each individual. It will be possible to frame laws that shall consider the liberties and rights of the many instead of the privileges of the few. I think I may kind of see what he's saying. Just when they realize that the transcendent force of spirit or mind, you know, spirit or mind, whether they figure out one of them over the other, it's a transcendent force in the cosmos. And it will be possible to frame laws that shall consider the liberties and rights of the many instead of the privileges of the few. As long as the people regard the cosmic power as a power non-human and alien to humanity, so long will it be comparatively easy for a supposed privileged class to rule by the divine right in spite of every protest of social sentiment. Meaning, regardless of how many protests or social sentiments that happen, okay, as long as people regard the cosmic power as a non-human power, okay, as something that is separate from themselves, they're never going to be able to bring themselves up to a higher plane of living, a higher plane of existence. You know, like thinking, for example. You know, we have to think greater and higher thoughts because, you know, it happens in our mind. You know, it starts in your mind. And thinking is that thing, the activity which we use to create anything. The real interest of democracy is therefore to exalt, emancipate, and recognize the divinity of the human spirit, to recognize that all power is from within. that no human being has any more power than any other human being, except such as may willingly be delegated to him, meaning however much he decides to use. The old regime would have us to believe that the law was superior to the lawmakers. Herein is the gist of the social crime of every form of privilege and personal inequality, the institutionalizing of the fatalistic doctrine of divine election. The divine mind is the universal mind. It makes no exceptions. It plays no favorites. It does not act through sheer caprice or from anger, jealousy, or wrath. Neither can it be flattered, cajoled, or moved by sympathy or petition to supply man with some need which he thinks necessary for his happiness or even his existence. The divine mind makes no exceptions in favor for any individual, but when the individual understands and realizes his unity with the universal principle, he will appear to be favored because he will have found the source of all health, all wealth, and all power. He will essentially have connected with his higher self, our God self, our spiritual selves that are within us and is also all around us. Remember, this thing is something that just is and is differentiated through us. For your exercise this week, concentrate on the truth. Try to realize that the truth shall make you free. That is, nothing can permanently stand in the way of your perfect success. When you learn to apply the scientifically correct thought methods and principles, realize that you are externalizing in your environment your inherent soul potencies. Realize that the silence offers an ever-available and almost unlimited opportunity for awakening the highest conceptions of truth. Try to comprehend that omnipotence itself is absolute silence. All else is change, activity, limitation. Silent thought concentration is therefore the true method of reaching, awakening, and then expressing the wonderful potential power of the world within. Silent thought concentration is therefore the true method of reaching, awakening, and then expressing the wonderful potential power of the world within. Quote, "The possibilities of thought training are infinite, its consequence eternal, and yet few take the pains to direct their thinking into channels that will do them good, but instead leave all to chance." End quote. And that is by Martin. And that is the end of this part 21. Now let's go ahead and go over study questions and answers. So question 1, what is the real secret of power? The consciousness of power. Because whatever we become conscious of is invariably manifested in the objective world, is brought forth into tangible expressions. 2, what is the source of this power? The universal mind from which all things proceed and which is one and indivisible. 3, how is this power being manifested? Through the individual. Each individual is a channel whereby this energy is being differentiated in form. 4, how may we connect with this omnipotence? Our ability to think is our ability to act on this universal energy, and what we think is what is produced or created in the objective world. Now remember, information is one of the most important things that you can have, knowledge and wisdom, because with knowledge and wisdom comes specific thoughts. Whatever it is that we're thinking is going to manifest in our world. So once we realize our unity with this infinite presence, our unity with God, that yes, I and my Father are one, I am, that our own I amness, our own individual sparks of consciousness is our own God selves manifesting itself through our own created individualized beings, our own specific personalized sparks of consciousness, our ways of being. Once we form that unity and think from the knowing that, hey, we are the infinite, like we are consciousness, we are God, we are spiritual beings, we are an embodiment of this source. There is only one that manifests itself as all, in all, and through all. And you and I are expressions of this one all, living and experiencing itself as a human being. Once we realize our unity with essentially ourselves, and who we are, then you become like gods. You can say you start moving into the things that Jesus did, and performing miracles, because he was in unity. Something I want to, I'm kind of moving. Let me move all my books over here. Unity. To live as one, because together we can change the world. Trust God in all things. And knowing that if changing the world is what you really want to do, then you're going to do it. Like there really is nothing that can stop you from doing that. Like if that's all you think about, and that's all you want to do, and that's who you want to be, and that's what you want to help, inspiring people to change themselves, because that's what all this is. We're doing this to change ourselves. The world is how it is from the people that live on this planet. The only way society is going to get better is if the people that make up the society gets better. And you and me are part of the puzzles to this society. I'm doing what I'm doing, hopefully to inspire you to take the initiation to grow yourself, to be healthy yourself, to read the books you need to read, to grow in your life, and do the things that you need to do for others. We're here for each other. We're here to help each other, and we're here to make sure we're all we're all right. We're here to make sure we're all right. And yeah, if there's something you want to do, creator, just start moving. You're gonna pull the things necessary out of the ether. You're gonna be able to find ways to bring it to pass into your life. Just do your part. You have to take the first step. Remember, God will do his part. The universe will make sure that you have whatever it is that you want. But you, creator, have to do your part. Remember, God can only do for you what you allow God to do through you. Make yourself an open channel. Start taking action towards wherever it is you want to go. Keep your mind open to new things and new channels and new information. Just keep moving forward. Next question. What is the result of this discovery? The result is nothing less than marvelous. It opens unprecedented and limitless opportunity. 6. How then may we eliminate imperfect conditions? By becoming conscious of our unity with the source of all power. 7. What is one of the distinctive characteristics of the master mind? He thinks big thoughts. He holds ideas large enough to counteract and destroy all petty and annoying obstacles. 8. How do experiences come to us? Through the law of attraction. 9. How is this law brought into operation? By our predominant mental attitude. And then 10. What is the issue between the old regime and the new? A question of conviction as to the nature of the universe. The old regime is trying to cling to the fatalistic doctrine of divine election. The new regime recognizes the divinity of the individual, the democracy of humanity. And that is the end of part 21 out of our lovely book, The Master Key System by Charles F. Haanel. If you guys made it to the end of this video with me, thank you. I know my videos are long. They're not meant to be short. I had a friend tell me I should really do summaries because he tried watching these videos, and he classifies himself as ADD. I don't believe anybody has anything like that. Like I was saying earlier, it's just a part of our mind. That's just how your mind is working. And we have to be able to train our minds to keep our thoughts held on a specific purpose. And without allowing it to move from one spot to another. But yeah, summaries. I was talking about mental chemistry, because it's been a year since I read that book and shared it online. And I was thinking of, because I've read it several times, maybe going over it again, just doing summaries, reading a chapter and then summarizing what that chapter was. So those are things I'm really, considering doing. I'm not too sure if I will yet, because there's still a lot of books that I want to read. I'm in the process of growing myself, and I'm in the process of continuously learning, and I'm still moving forward with new books. With that being said, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and remember our lovely affirmations that we are the lights of the world, you and me, and together we will make a difference. And you guys are awesome. With all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end it right here. Now we'll see you guys on the other side of the galaxy. Remember, we read this chapter twice every day for an entire week, and then we move on. Okay, so I'll see you guys in.